back to Owl003. The best remote viewing you're ever going to see is right here on Owl003. So, today I'm going to go over a few of these targets that I've done. I'm calling this episode Dark Targets Real Fear, because there are targets that you should really watch out for, and this is kind of to serve as a warning. There's an expression where I come from we use called around and find out. So, you know, these are areas I would not retask to other people. Let me go over a few of the ones that I can't show you. Okay, so one was the moon landing. Okay, the Neil Armstrong moon landing. Now, this one I monitored a viewer, and I have a recording of it. But what ended up happening was the viewer reported Neil Armstrong, and he had sketched the astronaut, and he was on the moon, and like he had seen these crafts. And then all of a sudden, my camera went out, brand new webcam. I could still see the viewer, and the viewer's kind of just going away on the session. And he's like, something's here, it's telling me to leave. The Earth is a prison, you're not supposed to be up here, stuff like that. So, and then again, like I said, my camera went out. And this is all over Zoom. And I said, all right, go ahead and close the session. You know, so immediately after he closed the session, my camera went back on. So, and this is not the first time I've seen this. Some of these areas, you could literally, if it wasn't so dangerous for the viewer, like if I didn't feel like I was putting the viewer, it'd be an interesting project to kind of just because you could literally, going after some of these targets, you could see effects from pursuing these targets in the real world, meaning electronic issues. Okay, so that was the moon landing that I monitored. Another one was I did in intermediate training was Area 51. Now, in Area 51, I had COVID when I did that target. I got it as soon as I stepped off the plane from someone, thanks. But anyway, so what was funny about that target was our phones were ringing. Just started ringing each other, like electronic issues with that target. Okay, so what I've noticed is something, I don't know how it's being done, maybe through some kind of waves or something, but it seems technological, where they can mess with your phones, they could mess with your cameras, your communication. But if you've gone after some of these targets, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so next, let's talk about Hellier. Wait, which one is this? I think this is Hellier. Okay. So, let me explain this. When you go into certain areas, and you're kind of spotted, or they don't want you there, there is this thing that they do that these things could do. I don't know if to me it feels, my guess would be it's some kind of technological fear that they kind of put upon you. So I don't know how they're doing it, but you learn to, you're doing enough remote viewing, you know what's your feelings, what's someone else's. It's hard to freak yourself out. I mean, for me it is anyway. I don't know, but it's when you immediately recognize it when you've dealt with it before. Okay, which at this point I have. Let's see if it's in here somewhere. What was interesting on this session was when I ran into this creature. It was a focal point A. I could see a visual of him like shaking his head, like something was in his head. And at that point, um, it got real aggressive. Basically, just tried to scare me out of the session, which is kind of what they do. Kind of looking for it. See if I can find it. Do do do. So in this session with Hellier, my sense was deep in the ground, they were trafficking these people, like trafficking humans. It was dark. Okay, so here we go. You could see this. This is an image basically. This happens sometimes where I'll sketch myself. This is this being aware of me in his head, um, poking around the Hellier creature. Um, and once they do that, they can kind of shield their mind to a degree. Now again, this never happens with humans. Like just a regular human guy, you won't find this problem. You could backdoor their mind; they won't even know you're there. But when you see, here we go, shielded. Okay, so this is where it's like the third time I went into the session. This guy knew I was in there. He knew I was poking around. He's trying to scare me away, and like a jerk, he kind of like waves off, like bye bye. And I ended up going back anyway, but because he knows he was trying to get me away. They don't. Sometimes they don't want you to see what they're messing around with. These things, these non-human things. So again, luckily I was seasoned enough where I knew what I was dealing with. This is sketches of people in Hellier screaming in cages. It was dark. It's not a good place down there from my experience. So if you go after the Hellier Goblin, and you go deep down into their caves and stuff, they could get, and they spot you. They'll get a little aggressive to get you out of there. Okay. So let's go over MS-15. Now, MS-15, Mothership 15. This is a target that Ingo was involved with. So I'm kind of like working my way pretty much, for the most part, that I could share from like the least oppressive to the most oppressive. Now MS-15, I was talking to Fabian Rush on this, and he did a project on this with remote viewers, and it was the only project that YouTube actually took down. So there is some kind of structure around that's like working in close proximity to the sun and is doing something with energy there. And if you get past that target, though, and you get too close, you could have a very unpleasant experience. Now I'm going to show you something. So I'm getting into this target, and when you do enough of any, just remote viewing in general, you pick up on your own patterns, the own behavior of your own system, right? Okay, so I'm getting an AOL portal technology. Just very strange stuff here. Let's get back to the main stuff. So I'm getting this like plasma energy bursting out. Like a science experiment. It was very interesting. Okay, so here's later on during the session, I get a sense of the sun and like a network of stars and suns and stuff. It was weird. But anyway, so this here, I believe, is me. Now, what happened was, when you're in this target, there is some part of you, some non-physical aspect of you, I mean, seemingly at the target from my experience in these weirder sessions, right? So I am there, and sometimes when something interacts with me, I'll end up sketching myself in the session sometimes. So this is me. I'm like creeping around, and this thing there, right away I know I'm kind of like under some kind of duress, right? So this thing launches this, I don't know what it was, this thing, this little bubble on, see, this is me, like my energy body or whatever, and then there's another bubble like attached to me. After this session, for like a week or two, I was completely drained of energy, felt like crap. And I believe what happened is, I believe this thing like launched this thing at me. Okay, so what's interesting at this target, though, see, then you got this spherical object around the sun, right? Yeah, they were not pleasant creatures. What's interesting, though, is there's this guy with like a hood here, and this guy has been in, I've seen him in a few sessions where he's trying to get me to get out of there. He's trying to ward me away. There's one sketch here, he's like pointing, like, get out of here. And this is him. It's like he was waiting for me. I feel like this guy is covering, he's waiting. Let's see if I, there he is. So he's very like a, you know, biblical type vibe kind of thing. He's got a staff, and he's like get out. Get out of here. But he doesn't want to see me get hurt, I think, is what's happening here. So anyway, that one was pretty rough. And like I said, there was, like, for a week, I felt horrible. There he is. Okay, so this is this is actually that moment. This mind-to-mind telepathy torture mail. He catches me, and he's, to me, he's like insectoid-like, and that's kind of when he launches that thing at me, right? I know, it's wild. Wild stuff. Okay, but you know, okay, this is where I had all the suns were actually connected to each other in like a network. So anyway, oppressive creatures, and I've talked to other viewers too, and sometimes, you know, some of these things, it's like they take it as a real offense that you're spying on them. You know, so I've heard viewers tell, like, where they've interacted with them, they're like, oh, you know, do you mind if I look around? And they have a different attitude when you get this permission. Again, this is all esoteric targets, guys. Okay, so this is, you know, I'm not trying to tell you how the reality of work, you know, this all works, but this is just my experiences. I'm relaying them how they happen. Quantify them in any way you want. I'm not here to tell you how reality works. There's plenty of remote viewing groups that will do that for you, because you can't prove any of it. It's all just models that we're working with. So this target, the Hellier target, other targets, I'm going to show you this last one. This is the scariest one I've ever dealt with. And what I mean scary is they have the ability to instill fear in you for no reason. It's like a nerve they could press on, and you don't even know where. Like you recognize it when it happens if it's happened before because it's very unique. Um, so back in the Stargate era, you've heard all these Stargate remote viewers talk about this. Off the coast of Argentina, San Mateo, there was a minesweeper. The crew disappeared. Blah blah blah. This was literally by far the most oppressive presence at the target who wanted me gone actively, and this target like deeply affected me in a bad way. Like I should have bailed out, you know, but I didn't really know what was happening. I had no familiarity with it, so for a long time I couldn't even go over this target. It just disturbed me so badly. So this crew went missing. Um, Plates still on the table. They don't know what happened to them, right? A lot of the viewers had these UFOs and these creatures walking around, and a lot of viewers had horrible experiences on that target, right? So I was monitored in this session actually, and I was all gung ho to hit the target. I come in and I start working it, getting life, and I get this like I'm getting a nervous energy in myself very early on. Like I feel like I'm vibrating, um, and I ended up taking a break very early. Okay, AI break. This scares me. All right, so AOL break death. So right away, it's almost like I feel like an electrical current is running through me. And the deeper I go into this target, it's like a black cloud is surrounding me. It's really hard to describe because it's completely unique. So all of a sudden, I looked up at the monitor. I said, I can't. I don't think I could do this target. Something's oppressive or trying to scare me away. So, so I go take a break. So I go outside, and my heart's pumping. My heart's pumping, and I'm feeling like I can't. Like, what is going on? So I go outside as if by my own um, intuition. I'm walking around on the grass, trying to get grounded, on my feet. And I'm like, this is so bizarre. So I come back in to the target. I try and penetrate again. And I'm getting this weird dimensional like energy or something. This is early on. I'm getting all these AOLs. So I'm getting something from above, right? These people. Then I'm getting like this crew's getting ripped to pieces by something. Like a bloody, just being torn to shreds. It was horrible. And during this, it's getting harder and harder for me. Not just because the stuff that's happening there, but I feel like whatever's there knows I'm watching, doesn't want me there, and this guy shows up. This is him right there. Stop. And whatever's applying this pressure upon me at this terrible, nasty thing that's at the target, this guy gets in between me and that. So again, I'm seeing all this like death, destruction. So this guy that gets in between myself and this oppressive entity, right? Let's say this is all in the water. I had a little conversation with him. Let's see if I can find it here. Okay, here he was. Now, from my perspective, this thing was literally like a giant picking me up in his hand. Basically pulling my ass out of the fire here. I get the sense of a very powerful energy happening, like an explosion of energy. I get a male presence with full-length garments, explaining something. Guy running in fear. Got the impression something at this target was actively trying to scare me away. Okay, so time tunnel. Okay, so I had this time tunnel. So this guy, it's somewhere in here, but I'm having this oh, there he goes. So I'm having this conversation with this guy, and he's like, hello? And I'm like, what's going on? And he's telling me you need to be careful on these targets. And I go, why? This is dangerous, what you're doing here. So I said, why is this dangerous? You need to be careful when you reach out. You don't know who is on the other end. Like on this what he described as a time tunnel. I get the sense he's telling me, like, you don't know who you're reaching out to, like CE5. So this guy, this is him basically patting me on the head like an innocent child, you know. So I'm not really, guys, I'm not really religious. I mean, you do enough remote viewing, it's obvious, it's pretty hard to deny there's a non-local aspect of who we are. So because of that, it's kind of like hard not to expect to be existing after you die, because I'm experiencing non-locality all the time. But this was a really profound session, actually. There's a painting I actually haven't finished, but so this guy literally kind of pulled me out of the fire, because I didn't know at the time, I wasn't seasoned enough really to be dealing with this target. I mean, it was a good learning experience, because I learned from stuff like this, I learned to pick up, you know, some psychic self-defense and better handle stuff like this, because if you go messing around in the dark, you could experience stuff like this. So this was there was something so dark there that literally something very light had to come and intervene and kind of pull me out of the fire. So again, this is my experience. And I've done a lot of not just these targets, but all kinds of targets. So in my experience, from my perspective, we're dealing with a layer cake reality, meaning you know, we perceive this band of reality, this spectrum of reality. And there's seemingly a lot more out there that we can't perceive or normally. But I really just wanted to share these targets with you, not to entice you, but so you understand something to stay away from and to keep your viewers safe from, if you have viewers that you have access to. Anytime you mess around with the moon or certain aspects of the moon, you might run into, you're taking a gamble. MS-15, definitely you're taking a gamble. Area 51, definitely taking a gamble. Hellier, definitely taking a gamble. So again, I'm not trying to tell people how to put the pieces together, but I mean, if you watch my show, you know I've done defensive technology, You know that seem the psychic penetrating technology seems to be apparent. If you know, so be cautious, guys. I'm not saying don't explore the unknown. I mean that's what my job is, kind of. So, but I also don't put viewers at risk that I know are going to run into stuff like this. Um, so please don't either. Um, Also, when I was going to include Lou Elizondo, but when I was to ask Lou Elizondo and his intentions, there was a species that was following his day-to-day movements, tracking his thoughts, his mind, his everything. And when I focused in on that aspect of the target, something very similar. It's almost like grabbing an electric fence. You're on the line of something that's trying to do you harm, and your immediate reaction is to let go. So be wise, be careful, be safe, and thanks for joining me. We'll catch you next time on Owl 003, guys. Thanks for watching.